Namaste all, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga. We are now in the chapter, The Philosophy of Rebirth, and on page 785, the last paragraph, beginning with, "For it is no longer sufficient." And you are going to do the summary of the previous.
A summary and a little bit of introduction also.
Good.
We are now starting the chapter, The Philosophy of Rebirth, reincarnation. This has been a big, a lot of discussion about this in the philosophical circles, and there are many philosophies and viewpoints which say that there is no rebirth at all. But now things are changing because of the internet. Now we know that there are many cases, genuine cases of rebirth, and there is a lot of research also going on.
There was also the understanding of rebirth in Christianity, but they stopped it in 500 AD.
That's right. That's correct.
Because they want sheep.
When the center was in Europe at some time, there was a belief in reincarnation.
Yes.
But when it shifted to Byzantium,
Yes.
Constantinople,
Yes.
then at that time they said that no, it doesn't exist. After that they have stuck to that policy. But now there is increasing evidence, whether scientific or not depends on the person, whether he wants to believe or not, but there is an increasing. But Sri Aurobindo is not going to all that. Sri Aurobindo is very clearly saying, let us see whether rebirth is possible or not. Are there some philosophies which say that it is not possible? Let's look at all the views that are, viewpoints that are there. So he is not imposing anything on you, he is exploring. He is going here, he is seeing there, and he is seeing. So one by one he has been looking at many theories. He has looked at the Christian theory, where there is no rebirth. He has looked at the Mayavada philosophy. He has looked at the Buddhistic philosophy, which says that there is a reincarnation, but not of the soul, of the collection of actions and reactions that are there, that is taking birth again, but not the human soul. There is no soul in Buddhism. So he has been exploring. Now he is saying, we have examined all these different theories. Let us now see under what conditions is rebirth absolutely essential. So I am putting forward my theory, and let us see with this theory whether rebirth is a possible or not possible, or it is absolutely a necessity. Three possibilities. So we'll have a look at that. He is exploring. He is not imposing anything on anybody. So I'll read the previous summary so that we know what he is saying. Okay, so now Sri Aurobindo is saying, if there is evolution and the individual is a very important part in this process of evolution, then let us examine that possibility. So once I have mentioned that, I will start giving you my view of things. Okay? So in the previous one he says, our explanation of the evolution in matter. So he starts with that. I am reading the summary of the previous para in which he is giving his own explanation. Okay? So, I am reading the summary of the previous paragraph. Since we have referred to evolution and the importance of the individual, we must elaborate briefly the integral view that we hold, that I hold. He doesn't use the word I, he always uses the word we. Okay, so only in the secret of the Veda and the hymns to mystic fire, he uses the word I very often, because he is exploring there and giving his own theory. Otherwise in Life Divine, nowhere except in one place only he says I. Okay, so So now we are going to read what Sri Aurobindo is saying, my view is of the existence and the supramental, the whole scale of existence. This is Sri Aurobindo's philosophy. There is a supreme reality whose nature is existence, consciousness and bliss. A spirit, infinite, eternal, immutable, spaceless and timeless, Sat Chit Ananda. This is my view, that this is the highest state of consciousness and existence, Sat Chit Ananda. This spirit, note interestingly, he is not speaking of God. This is philosophy. In the synthesis of yoga, since there is a question of bhakti and all that, he uses the word God, but in Life Divine, very rarely he uses the word God because it's philosophy. You are exploring. So it is spirit, not God. Okay? Because it can be impersonal also. But if you use the word God, it is personal. So there is an impersonality as well as a personality, which he will discuss later on. So, there is a supreme reality whose nature is existence, consciousness and bliss. A spirit, infinite, eternal, immutable, spaceless and timeless, Sat Chit Ananda. This spirit creates the universe with individualities and itself descends into each and every form. So let's understand this. This supreme reality is one. It's only one. Advaita. Okay? Non-dualism. And it is creating a world in which there is multiplicity. The one becomes the many. Okay? And in that many, since there are many, individualities are coming into existence. So now, is the individual real or is it fictitious? There are many philosophies which say individualities are all fictitious and they are maya, they are illusions. There is no individual. There is only a nature has produced a body, mind, life which is perishable. It disappears, but nothing else.
They don't consider the ego?
The ego is also something created by nature and disappears. Okay? But Sri Aurobindo's philosophy is not that. The spirit creates individualities and itself descends into each and every form. So the spirit is creating the universe with many, entering into each of the many in a hidden fashion, and so it cannot be unreal. The individualities are real. Okay? The universe is a self-expression of the spirit and contains, hidden in itself, the secret essence of the spirit. So even in the individualities, the divine is lurking there, hiding itself behind the forms and the veils. Okay? Though itself unmanifested and extra-cosmic, the spirit is beyond the cosmos. This infinite, eternal Satchidananda expresses itself in the universe through matter, life and mind. All these are hiding the omnipresence of the spirit within themselves. Now this is a fundamental departure from most of the philosophies. They say that the individual unit has no reality at all, but Sri Aurobindo is very, very clearly stating that each individual, the divine presence is there. Therefore it cannot be false or an illusion. In this evolutionary movement, the individual plays a pivotal role. So, this is a fundamental departure from most of the philosophies. The individual has no importance even in those who believe that the divine is here in the individual. They don't believe in the importance of the individual. Sri Aurobindo gives a tremendous importance to the individual. The one is real and fundamental. The many, the individual also is one, is many but real. There is a reality to the many. In this evolution movement, the individual plays a pivotal role. It is he who causes and triggers the evolution. At first individually, then spreads his progress to entire humanity. This spirit creates for itself the individual in manifestation and works its way upwards through the individual. The divine is creating the evolution through the individual. It's the individual who takes the evolution upwards.
But your statement causes and triggers.
Pardon?
You said causes and triggers.
Yes.
Very brilliant.
Okay, so evolution at first individual. So this spirit creates for itself the individual manifestation and works its way upward through him. So if the individual is not there, the divine is extra cosmic and remains there. But if he has to work here, he needs a worker. He needs a messenger to do the work for him.
A form.
So that is that's the reason why this divine is transcendental, cosmic, as well as individual. If the individual is not there, very doubtful whether there can be an evolution. So the individual is crucial to the concept of evolution. Not biological evolution, but spiritual evolution. So, the spirit creates for itself the individual in manifestation and works its way upward through him. This language is mine, it's not from those, I am giving a summary. Then, this cosmic evolution can therefore happen only if the individual is not a mere body-mind life, but a living, eternal, infinite being. If so, rebirth becomes not a mere probability, but an inevitable necessity. So this is his view. So when is rebirth absolutely essential? First of all, the individual must be real. He cannot be a false. So Buddhism, Mayavada, all these are eliminated. So, and second is there must be an evolution. If there is no evolution and the spirit is manifesting here and simply manifesting itself without any purpose, then also there is no need of rebirth. The divine is creating a drama and the drama is endless. The drama has no denouement, it has no climax, it has no conclusion. It goes on. This is the theory of Leela. That also Sri Aurobindo says that there is a certain state of consciousness in which you see that this is real. Every experience that spiritual life gives is only partial. It only shows one aspect of the divine. It's only when you climb to the third level of the supermind that you get the entire picture. So even a spiritual person who has gone beyond body-mind life experiences only one aspect of the divine. But Sri Aurobindo wants to say, if you want to know the divine integrally, in all ways, you have to go up to the supermind. This concept is there in the Gita also. Kshara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, Uttama Purusha. You have to go to the highest level.
Mother also tells us.
Yes. Then only you can get the entire picture of the evolution and the theory of existence. So rebirth becomes essential if there is an evolution and if there is an individuality who is the cause of the evolution. This is what he said in the previous para. That's my theory, he says. Now let us see whether under my theory, what the possibilities are. He is looking at it. Now we read today's para. For it is no longer sufficient to suppose an illusory or temporary individual created in each form by the play of consciousness. Individuality can no longer be conceived as an accompaniment of play of consciousness in figure of body which may or may not survive the form, may or may not prolong its false continuity of self from form to form, from life to life, but which certainly need not do it. Now, you have to be very careful when you read Sri Aurobindo. This sentence is, he is telling you that under my theory, you need not believe all these things. So, what he is saying, is what you should not believe if you believe in the Sri Aurobindo's philosophy. Look at the words. He says, you need not. It is no longer sufficient to suppose an illusory or temporary individual. And what is the nature of the temporary individual? He is giving you. So you might get confused and think that Srimad is saying all this. He is not saying all that. He is saying we need not take this as true. Okay. So what is the nature of the temporary individual? Created in each form by the play of consciousness. Consciousness is creating an individual, but it is temporary. He lives or he is born and dies. Individuality can no longer be conceived as an accompaniment of play of consciousness in figure of body which may or may not survive the form. Okay. So the form is the body mind life, and when the body mind life is going away, the individual may survive or may not survive. You don't need to believe this. You have to believe that it does survive. The language is a little complex. You have to read Srimad very carefully. Okay, he may or may not survive is part of the not to be believed. Okay, so you have to be very careful. May or may not prolong its false continuity of self from form to form, from life to life, which certainly need not do it. So, if you believe in that, it can exist or need not exist after the dissolution of the body, the soul. In this world, what we seem at first to see is individual replacing individual without any continuity. The form dissolving, the false or transient individuality dissolving in it, while the universal energy or some universal being alone remains forever. Okay. That might very well be the whole principle of cosmic manifestation. Now, we have to see this very carefully also. Okay. So, what he is saying, note very carefully each word. In this world, what we seem at first to see, what does it mean by at first? When you are ignorant, when you are identified with your body, mind, life, and you don't see the divine anywhere. So, at first, what do you see? You see an individual replacing an individual without any continuity. Okay? Today is there, he dies, and there is no continuity. When you are going to pass away from the physical world, do I see you again taking another life and continuing your line? No, I don't. So, Srimad is saying this is what we see. Okay? So, form dissolving, the false or transient individuality dissolving with it. This is what we see. While the universal energy or some universal being alone. Now, look at that again. Universal energy is creating all this, or a universal being. Now, what does it mean? The universal energy is impersonal. It's like a wind blowing. There is no person. It's just an impersonal force. That, or it could be that there is a universal being, a conscious being who is creating all this. Both are possible. But this is what we don't need to believe. This is what we are seeing only in the physical world. He is seeing this is what you see. That might very well be the whole principle of cosmic manifestation. Now, this you have to understand. He is saying that it is possible that when you come to a certain level of consciousness, you do see that the whole drama in the physical world is a play of the divine. This is the Vaishnava theory. The divine is creating forms and enjoying himself. It's only a play. Okay. So, if it's only a play, there is no need of evolution. That's what he's pointing out. So, even he rejects that it's only one aspect of truth. It's not the whole truth. There is an evolution. It is true that the divine is enjoying, but that does not rule out evolution. Okay. So, that's what he's pointing out. Yeah? But if the individual is a persistent reality, an eternal portion or power of the eternal, if his growth of consciousness is the means by which the spirit in things discloses its being, the cosmos reveals itself as a conditioned manifestation of the play of the eternal one in the being of Satchidananda with the eternal many. So, he says, if we see that the individual is not a false, like in many theories, but is real, then it's a totally different thing. Okay? Rebirth becomes essential. Okay? But if the individual is a persistent reality, not like what you are seeing in the physical world, What you are seeing is not the reality. Okay? And he is a persistent reality. That means he loses his body, but the soul continues to exist. Persistent reality. An eternal portion or power of the eternal. So the individual is an eternal portion or a power of the individual, of the divine. So this is there also in the, same they use the word eternal portion. In the Gita very clearly you say Ansha Sanatana. He is the individual soul is a part of the divine. It's one of the parts that is partially part of the divine. He can merge into the divine and lose his individuality, but he is real, he is not false. Okay, so the cosmos reveals itself as a conditioned manifestation of the play of the eternal. Now what does that mean? Conditioned manifestation. The divine is not creating a manifestation in a chaotic manner. I produce this without any purpose or without any aim. I am just playing. That's a Leela theory. Okay? But it's a conditioned manifestation. There is a manifestation which is there is an order, there is a purpose, there is an aim to it. It's a conditioned. It is not unconditioned. Unconditioned means free play without any end. So it's a conditioned manifestation of the play of the eternal, one in the being of Satchidananda with the eternal many. Many are eternal, not transient.
Is then their predetermination?
Yeah, that will come.
Okay.
Then, secure behind all the changings of our personality. Now, what do we mean by personality? Body, life and mind. That's a personality with a P lowercase. Remember that. Okay? So, changing. Your body, mind, life goes away, another body, mind, life comes, but the soul remains the same and takes birth again and again. Upholding the stream of its mutations, there must be a true person, a real spiritual individual, a true Purusha. So the individual is real and true, and he is upholding, he is supporting the body, mind, life. Okay? The body, mind, life is not something randomly created and dissolves. There is an individual who is creating, he is supporting this. We might as well mention here that sometimes nature is creating a body, mind, life, but a soul need not enter into it. Okay, that also can happen. Mother has identified some individuals who do not have a psychic being, but there is a difference between a soul and a psychic being. The soul is the essential divine in everybody, but that soul develops slowly through many lives and becomes a psychic being. So it's possible for some men not to have a developed psychic being.
But Mother said that had no soul. He had no soul.
The soul is there in everybody. The soul is a divine reality hiding even in a stone. But that's not the psychic being. The psychic being is a developed soul. Okay? Just like the tree and the seed. The seed contains the tree. So the soul is like the divine presence, undeveloped and like a seed form. It has to grow through many lives and then it becomes a psychic being, which is conscious of itself. The divine in the stone has forgotten that he is divine. Okay, so the one extended in universality exists in each being and affirms himself in this individuality of himself. Now, Srimati is saying the one has extended himself in universality, exists in each being. So, the one is transcendent, standing above the universe before he has created the universe. Then he creates a universe, he extends himself. Srimati is using the word extend. It's like a small knot which extends itself and expresses like the seed extends itself into the tree.
It was Stalin. Stalin, Mother said, had no soul.
That's right.
So he was a being from somewhere else.
Yeah. And Srimati also comments about Hitler. He says he has the soul of a taxi driver. That means there is no, the psychic being is not developed. It's at a very, very fundamentally low level. So that is there. Okay, so now Srimad is saying the divine, the transcendent divine creates a universality and also enters into each being and affirms himself in this individuality of himself. He is using different words, but the divine can have three status. One is the transcendent, where he has not created the universe as yet. The second is the universe, he has created the universe and is there present in the universe in extended form, which is often mistaken as that's the only reality, that is pantheism. Pantheism is the one that thinks that the universe itself is divine, but they have no concept of the transcendent. But then the divine also enters into each form that he has made, that's an individual, and there is a reality to the individual also. That is Srimada's philosophy. Okay? Many philosophies say there is no divine in the individual. It is just a fiction, an illusion. Okay, so in the individual too, he discloses two. He is transcendent as the eternal, in whom all the universal unity is founded. This trinity of self-manifestation, this prodigious leela of the manifold identity, this magic of Maya or protean miracle of the conscious truth of being of the infinite, is a luminous revelation which emerges by slow evolution from the original inconscience. Now, the word protean means that goes on changing form. Okay? So, you can see in the physical world, everything is a form which is going on changing. Even a stone is not permanent. Rain and wind and storm and water, one day it will vanish. It becomes a grain of sand and vanishes. So, everything in the physical world is protean miracle. Okay? So, now, I will read the summary of what he is saying here. It will help to understand better what he said. With this view means with the theory that I have just expounded now, there is a divine consciousness who is creating the universe, and in the universe he is creating the individual, and the individual is real. He is not an illusion like many philosophies do believe. Okay? With this view, it is no longer incumbent on us to suppose the individual to be a temporary or illusory entity created by nature to vivify the biological body and to disappear with the death of body. These are the theories, the vitalistic theory of Bergson, the Buddhistic theory and the Mayavada theory. All these theories say there is no real individual. He just disappears with the body. Okay? But we don't need to believe that. So he is saying, we can ascribe an eternal reality to the individual soul that outlasts its earthly vestment, its earthly clothing. The clothing is the body, mind, life, and enters body after body in order to grow in consciousness. Now, each individual, the evolution is very slow and the divine is infinite. So, in 100 years of one lifetime, you cannot become perfect. So, you have to keep coming back again and again and again and develop yourself in stages, life after life, life after life. This is the theory that I have given, and we are going to explore that. That's what Srimad is saying. Okay? In this view, the cosmos is a conditioned manifestation of the one, playing with its own creations, the many. So, he is creating many and enjoying himself and playing with them. We have then a true eternal individual, a true person who is independent of body, life and mind. There is a soul in each one, and that soul persists after that body dies. Not only the body dies, but the vital also dies and the mind also dies. And when the individual remains, it goes to the psychic world, ruminates and looks at its own life and sees what it has to do next and takes birth accordingly. That's a theory. And Srimad says in one place, in general, this living of the soul in non-physical worlds, there is no rule to it, but approximately 2 years. 2 years of earthly time. There is no time there. But in earthly time, if you see, it's about 2 years around. Very generally speaking. It can be much more, it can be very much faster.
But then it says that we've had thousands of births to be here.
Yeah, that's right, because each life, maximum 100 years, 120 years, 130 years, now people are surviving along. But you have to keep coming back again and again because you have to develop. And why is that necessary? Because it's evolution. And individual is the agent for evolution, so he has to develop himself. And that is, rebirth is essential. These are the conditions. Rebirth is essential under two things. There has to be an evolution. Many say there is no evolution. The materialist says there is no evolution. The Mayavada says there is no evolution. The concept of evolution is different. Not the biological evolution, but the spiritual evolution. In the Advaita philosophy, Vedanta, the original Vedanta, there is evolution because the whole idea of the Dashavatar is implied. But it was never amplified. It was there in seed form. In the Vedanta, there is evolution. There is a growth. The Dashavatar is very clearly, you can see the growth of consciousness right up to the last. So, in this view, the individual universal himself, so there is a soul which is independent of your body, life and mind. The individual universalizes himself by this growth to reveal his essential identity with the universal spirit. So, the individual can become universal and have a cosmic consciousness. That's the first step. The individual is transcendent, cosmic as well as individual. It is this truth that is slowly emerging in the gradual upward evolution. So, the individual is real and he is the agent who takes the evolution forward. Therefore, there has to be rebirth. If the individual doesn't exist, rebirth is not necessary. There is no purpose in evolution. There is no purpose in manifestation. We read the next paragraph.
Yes.
So, if there were no need of self-finding, but only an eternal enjoyment of this play of the being of Satchidananda, and such an eternal enjoyment is the nature of certain supreme states of conscious existence, then evolution and rebirth need not have come into operation. So, what she is saying, if the human being has no need to find his own reality, if there is no question of yoga and the individual is just coming, and even if there is a soul, he is just coming and there is no need for him to find his own reality. If there is not there, then there is no question of rebirth. Okay.
So he's just enjoying it.
Yes. There is an experience. Simply saying very clearly, such an eternal enjoyment is the nature of certain supreme states of conscious existence. So there are states of spiritual experience where you experience that the divine is playing with the forms. So if you stop there, evolution is not necessary, nor rebirth. Okay? But if you don't stop there and see that there is a purpose, play is there, no doubt. But is this play, is there something beyond the play? That's the whole question. But there has been an involution of this unity into the dividing mind, a plunge into self-oblivion by which the ever-present sense of the complete oneness is lost, and the play of separative difference, phenomenal because the real unity in difference remains unabridged behind, comes into the forefront as a dominant reality. Now, let's understand. I told you that this language is very difficult. Okay? He is examining all the possibilities. But there has been an involution. So, is it that there is only a manifestation? No. We have said, my theory has told you that the divine has involved himself here. And the divine is infinite. So, how can he remain permanently limited? He cannot. There has necessarily to be an evolution because he is infinite. The infinite cannot be boxed up in the finite. So there has to be an evolution. That's what he's saying. Okay, so now, but there has been an involution of this unity into the dividing mind. Now, what is the dividing mind? Every word of Srimad you need to expand. The dividing mind is the overmind. The supermind is the one that has got unity. Unity as well as a hidden many. But as soon as it comes into the overmind, the division starts to take place. You can see the many. In the supermind, basically you will see the sea, one sea. But the moment you come down into the overmind consciousness, you start seeing the waves, the multiplicity. Okay, so that's a dividing mind. Mind M cap, note.
Yes.
Okay? So it's not the normal human mind. A plunge into self-oblivion by which the ever-present sense of the complete oneness is lost. So when the divine comes down here, he has willingly, purposefully lost his sense of divinity. It's a game he is playing with himself. So if he has lost his divinity, he has to get back his divinity. There is an involution and a reverse evolution. You have to go back from here up there. Phenomenal, because the real unity in difference remains unabridged behind. This sense of separation, the many, is phenomenal. It is not real. The phenomenon, the many, is not real. What is real in the many is the divine presence. But the many itself is not real. It's going on changing. Okay? So that's important. Phenomenal. Phenomenal means that which has got a beginning and an end. So, because the real unity in difference remains unabridged behind, comes into the forefront as a dominant reality. Now, today itself, I was reading an article in the newspaper which spoke exactly of this. There are many philosophies which look only at the physical world and see different individuals, and the way I am built, the article says, I can never understand you because I don't know you. So this is the ultimate truth, that the individuals are all different and never understand each other, and this world is doomed for clash and disharmony because everything is different here and no one understands the other. Now this is also the theory of existentialism. Existentialism. We have to accept that this is a reality. That this is the condition of the world, the manifestation like that. You can't question it, that's a manifestation. But Srimad doesn't agree with this at all. There is a purpose, and this is only real at this level. But there is an escape route. You can climb up to different, and this whole thing will change. There is an evolution. Existentialism does not believe in evolution. Okay, so comes into the forefront as a dominant reality. So these philosophies which say that this is a permanent state, it's a very not optimistic. What's the opposite of optimistic?
Opposite of optimism?
Yeah.
Oh, pessimism.
Pessimism. So these are all pessimistic theories. Okay? But the Srimad philosophy and Vedanta, Advaita is not pessimism at all. The world is real, but it's going to change. It's possible because there's an evolution. Okay? This play of difference has found its utmost term in the sense of division by the precipitation of the dividing mind into a form of body in which it becomes conscious of itself as a separate ego. So, the divine has come down into the universe, then comes down into the individual, and by now he has forgotten that he is divine. And so there is separation. And the ego, one ego will never understand another ego. The ego also is created by nature. Okay? A dense and solid basis has been laid for this play of division in a world of separative forms of matter by an involution of the active self-conscious of Satchidananda into a phenomenal nescience. It is this foundation in nations that makes the division secure, because it imperatively opposes a return to the consciousness of unity. But still, though effectively obstructive, it is phenomenal and terminable, because within it, above it, supporting it, is the all-conscious spirit, and the apparent nations turns out to be only a concentration, an exclusive action of consciousness tranced into self-forgetfulness by an abysmal plunge into the absorption of the formative and creative material purpose. So, the divine is coming down here, but this is not a permanent state of forgetfulness. There is a way out of it. But this is what you see in the physical world. Division and phenomenal, everything is going on changing. Okay. In a phenomenal universe so created, the separative form becomes the foundation and the starting point of all its life action. Therefore, the individual Purusha, in working out its cosmic relations with the One, has in this physical world to base himself upon the form, to assume a body. It is the body that he must make his own foundation and the starting point for his development of the life and mind and spirit in the physical existence. So, what is Swami saying here? He is saying, if that soul, the divine which has come down here, has to evolve, it has to be at this lower level of phenomenal change. Note, the spirit is permanent and static. It's perfect, doesn't need to change. But the physical world is the opposite. It's constantly changing and evolving. And if there is no change, there can be no evolution. So, a soul in the other worlds, there will be no evolution. They are static beings. So, we call them
typal.
Yeah, typal beings. So, this is what Swami is saying. Because it has to evolve, it has to come down here. Because this is the place where evolution is possible. Okay? That assumption of body we call birth. And in it only can take place here the development of self and the play of relations between the individual and the universal and all other individuals. In it only can there be the growth of a progressive development of our conscious being towards a supreme recovery of unity with God and with all in God. All the sum of what we call life in the physical world is a progress of the soul and proceeds by birth into the body and has that for its fulcrum, its condition of action and its condition of evolutionary persistence. So, his language is very difficult, but you have to always see what he is trying to say. Okay. So, I read the summary of what we read just now. If there were no need of self-finding, okay, if the individual who is coming down here, even a divine soul, if there is no need of a self-finding, then rebirth need not have come into existence. Very clear. It is linked to evolution. There is a spiritual experience in which only the bliss of play of the one with the many exists. There is an experience where you really see that. The Vaishnava theory of the Leela, the divine playing with himself. If this were all, without self-seeking, self-discovery, again evolution and rebirth would be superfluous. If you stop there at the philosophy of the play, Leela, rebirth is not necessary. The divine is creating forms and enjoying himself. Okay? So, but there is a need for self-seeking because the Supreme Consciousness has involved itself in its apparent opposite, in conscience, and needs to discover itself under the conditions of the earthly existence. This need results in the inevitability of evolution and therefore of rebirth. So, what Swami is saying is, it's an infinite divine who has come down here and locked himself in the finite. But he is divine. So, he cannot remain confined in a small box. Because his essential nature is divinity, he has to evolve and go back to where he came from. So evolution is necessary. And if evolution is necessary and the individual is real, there has to be rebirth. So this is what he said up to now. Okay, so it is true that the involution of the one, I am still reading the summary. It is true that the involution of the one conscious eternal in the many, which is inconscience and transience, is only phenomenal, superficial, once again. It is true that the involution of the one conscious eternal in the many, which is inconscience and transience, is only phenomenal, superficial, shallow, and the unity of the consciousness resides as essence in the infinite forms of the many. The many are not real, but the divine presence in the many is real, and that is what is developing. The many goes on changing. The one has become the many, but apparently, seemingly, he has become the many, but that you are looking only at the surface. You have to look beyond the surface, you will see the divine presence in the many. Each one of you has got a divine soul. Even the inanimate, even those which are a stone, the divine presence is there. The conscious subtle has become the gross unconscious. This was necessary in order to give a basis of solidity, permanence, stability to matter, and it is the stability, unwillingness to change easily, that opposes, obstructs, frustrates the rise into the higher levels of consciousness. Now, why has the divine created this phenomenal? He has created movement because there has to be evolution. But why has he at all created this suffering, pain, all this? Why has he created this? Because the principle here, there has to be a stability of forms. So the tamasic, the truth of tamas is that there has to be a stability of forms. If there is no stability of forms and there is constant change, where is the reality? Everything is changing, there is no reality. So there has to be a stability in the forms. That's why he has created matter. If there is no stability, you will have eternal movement only. So that's what he is saying. This was necessary in order to give a basis of solidity, permanence, stability to matter, and it is the stability, unwillingness to change easily, that opposes, obstructs, frustrates the rise into the higher levels of consciousness. So when it is stable, there is an unwillingness to change. But that is not permanent. You can change, but it's a great effort. So it's the game that the divine is playing with himself. He has created the opposite of himself, and now he is evolving slowly and going back to where he came from. It's a challenge he has given to himself. Okay. But this is a real game. It's a very frustrating game because he has created the opposite of himself. It's not a pretension. He really hides himself and forgets himself in every individual, and that's why there has to be an evolution. And that evolution cannot be done in 100 years. So the rebirth is necessary. You have to keep coming back in different bodies. Why do you have to come back? Because you have to progress. And you have to realize yourself. Sometimes use the word self-finding. You have to find the reality of yourself. If there is no need for that, no evolution.
So karma has a big place.
Yes, that's right. Okay. But this obstruction is not permanent. The physical world that you see here is dense, dark, ignorant, but it's not permanent. Existentialism and many others say it is permanent. That's why you have to escape here and go there. Mayavadi philosophy, okay, says that the physical world is unreal and you are stuck here. But if you want to find the divine and find yourself, fine, do that. You can go there, but you cannot do it here. You have to go there to find the divine. So if they say, no, you can find the divine here also. That's the whole point. Okay, so, but this obstruction is not permanent, final. However powerful, the ascent of evolution is possible and real, however slow. It is here that the individual's role becomes imperative. It is he who initiates and triggers the upward ascent. Therefore, the individual is the true person, must assume body after body in the repeated attempts to grow out of this limitation. It is this that is rebirth. Rebirth becomes necessary as the two conditions. The individual has to be real, and it is the individual who is taking the evolution forward. Rebirth becomes essential. So, it's very involved. Somebody is finding out under what conditions is there necessity of rebirth. So, now he concludes. Birth then is a necessity of the manifestation of the Purusha on the physical plane. But his birth, whether the human or any other, cannot be in this world order an isolated accident or a sudden excursion of a soul into physicality without any preparation, without any preparing past to it, or any fulfilling hereafter. So, it is not something that is haphazard. There has to be a preparation, there has to be a continuity. He has developed to a certain extent, he comes here and develops even more, okay, and a fulfilling hereafter. In a world of involution and evolution, not of physical form only. The physical form only is the biological evolution. Biological evolution says forms are going on evolving. And sometimes not even teleological, it is not even purposeful, it's just a change. Even many scientists believe that there is no purpose in evolution, in biological evolution. But many say no, you can very clearly see that there is a progress. 1 sense, 2 senses, 3 senses, 4 senses, 5 senses. So there is an evolution, biological also, there is a teleological, it's going towards something. That's our Teilhard de Chardin, who says that the omega point, it's all evolving towards the omega point. Yes. Okay. In a world of involution and evolution, not of physical form only, but of conscious being through life and mind to spirit, such an isolated assumption of life in the human body could not be the rule of the individual soul existence. Okay? It cannot be. It would be a quite meaningless and inconsequential arrangement, a freak for which the nature and system of things here have no place, a contrary violence which would break the rhythm of the spirit's self-manifestation. The intrusion of such a rule of individual soul life in an evolutionary spiritual progression would make it an effect without cause and a cause without effect. It's not haphazard. Okay? The rebirth has to have a purpose. It would be a fragmentary present without a past or a future, if there is no evolution and rebirth. The life of the individual must have the same rhythm of significance, the same law of progression as the cosmic life. Its place in that rhythm cannot be a stray, purposeless intervention. It must be an abiding instrumentation of the cosmic purpose. There is an evolution in the cosmos, you can see, even man has discovered that, but the individual is a part of that evolution, and there is a purpose to it. Neither in such an order can we explain an isolated advent, one birth of the soul in the human body, which would be its first and last experience of the kind, by previous existence in other worlds, with a future before it in yet other fields of experience, other fields, subtler worlds. For here, life upon earth, life in the physical universe, is not and cannot be a casual perch on the wanderings of the soul from world to world. It's not purposeless. It's a great and slow development needing, as we now know, incalculable spaces of time for its evolution. The divine is infinite, so your evolution also has to be infinite. It can't be done in 100 years. Human life is itself only a term in a graded series through which the secret spirit in the universe develops gradually his purpose and works it out finally through the enlarging and ascending individual soul consciousness in the body. This ascent can only take place by rebirth within the ascending order. An individual visit coming across it and progressing on some other line elsewhere could not fit into the system of this evolutionary existence. So, we will read this para again and we will do the summary also next time.
Namaste all, and thank you for attending. We will have page 788 in our next reading of the philosophy of rebirth.